Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm going to walk you through an article I just came across today related to the outage that many entities were impacted from CrowdStrike a few weeks back. I'm just going to walk you through some of the lessons learned, some of my experience around upgrades, just how you prepare accordingly as part of managing your product release cycles with your either your platform security or your overall data and AI solution provider. So here's my agenda. It'll be an introduction. I'll talk a bit about the importance of enhancement, upgrades, and fixes. So I'll talk about that. But let me talk briefly about my bio. I'm a CPA CGA. So I balanced my career between financial reporting and accounting to software solutions. So I've driven over 300 deployments of data and AI, including upgrades, uh, patches, hot site fixes, and all that. I've gone through all this process as part of helping clients both adopt the cloud as well as do support them on the cloud as they move more of their applications or expand their solutions on data and AI. So let me emphasize here quickly. Um, Terms of your contract agreement typically spell out around upgrades and enhancements. So you usually sign a license agreement on a software agreement with your vendor, and that vendor will say that the third week of each month we do maintenance and you know any sort of fixes. So they'll work with the vendors on the platform side to do any sort of upgrades to patch the operating system or any other things they need to do in terms of the health of the environment. Maybe it's security or some vulnerability stuff they have to do, but that is standard on any sort of solution or platform that you're providing. They also address defects. Like it's like any sort of product, there's bugs or something that comes up. So they'll basically they'll fix these defects as part of a release cycle. And that's up to you to kind of do things. A lot of companies don't like you more than 3 or 4 releases behind. But again, some companies basically only do upgrades once or twice a year. So I think it's just working with the vendor around when you want to do these upgrades, especially on the defects. Product enhancements are important. Usually there's some sort of site or some sort of involvement in either product development and product management, come up with new enhancements, or they solicit new enhancement advice through some sort of system to kind of decide what they want to enhance in the product. Service agreement, as I mentioned earlier, ties into exactly the frequency of upgrades. And then, of course, you're going to be addressing into system vulnerability, performance issues, and again, overall product quality. So we all are familiar with what happened with CrowdStrike. They basically had pushed out an upgrade, and this upgrade caused on certain platforms outages. And these outages were significant. There was major airliners impacted, hospitals, government, and it took them a few hours to get address the issue. But any sort of outage has especially with the systems that you have dependencies on, and I shouldn't say systems in general, but the reality is that it can cause major issues with you in terms of your business continuity. So they basically had to address this, and like anything else, I've been involved with outages before. There's an incident commander, and the team goes, kicks an idea to kind of get everything going. So what lessons have they were learned? Like most cases, the key is resiliency. Now, when you deal with some sort of cloud offering, is depending on how you can provision another environment up. Now, a lot of cases you're automating some of that. Now, in the past, it's gotten better on cloud support and other support where you can build something, but it's critical to have the ability to have a failover. And building resiliency and especially the way you roll out upgrades is critical. And I'll get more into specifically on it because I've talked about this in the past with clients about it. And it's really about basically keeping your systems resilient and making sure you have some sort of continuity plan, including a failover option. You really have to rethink continuity plans. Like some companies will offer you what they call as a disaster recovery option, right? Which is more of a premium offering, right? But this was something caused by the vendor, and therefore they're kind of looking at how best to basically create some failover in case something like this were to happen again. Maybe it's the way you roll out a patch, right? and maybe you just do it to a certain data center first, test it out, but you stagger these rollouts, especially if there's some sort of emergency patching. And it's critical to coordinate with the vendors that you're attaching for. So if you're working with Microsoft Stack, AWS, Azure, um, Google, that you work accordingly as part of the patching process. I will add some additional comments here quickly. You should have built resiliency and failover sites. When I was with other vendors and had conversations, they had, if something went on with the main site, automatically a script would kick over and everybody would be moved over to another site to keep resiliency up. There might be a bit of a break for the changeover, but it was almost simultaneous. I've always seen with every organization I've worked with is they roll out any sort of patches and they stagger them. And basically, if something goes wrong with us, say in the Asia Pac, they can stop it or have a way to stop it and just fix what's going on there before they push it out to other data centers, other geographies. The need for thorough regression and vulnerability testing. I've seen cases sometimes where upgrades are pushed out without proper thorough testing of them, and that can result in some issues. So it's important to have proper sign up. You need to have a recovery plan if an upgrade fails, in terms of an incident command team, how we're going to address it, and the effectiveness of your communication is part of doing that. I also would say strengthening your incident reporting and incident escalation. Usually, if it's just at your software level, then you can fix quickly. It's not so bad. But when you have to deal with platform stuff that you have to patch some of that, then it has to be escalated up to the vendor. And it's important that the vendor cooperates and collaborates with all stakeholders as part of resolving this issue in terms of the outages. And then I've always looked at communication as critical, um, whether it means hourly, whether it means every few hours, but either by email or a combination of email as well as have a site that updates is critical. Because when you have companies that rely on these systems, do you really want the ability to basically keep them alerted to see what they can do to do it? Now, it's the key here is taking ownership, right? The key is not to establish a blame game, and I've seen some cases when these outages happening, the blame game happens. Blame games won't resolve anything. So the criticality here is to work with the groups together, see what you can do to get something up and running on a failover, or what recommendations can happen, right? It's all about coordination because you want to minimize your outage or your impact to your customers. Here's some additional information and links and stuff like that. I've been working with cloud um, for solutions for a better part of 8 years. I've basically deployed 300. I've seen good, bad, and the ugly with upgrades, enhancements, and just the overall product flow. So if I can help and assist with you on anything, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.